Hi, everybody. I'm Malcolm Staves, and I'm co-founder of Safety on the Edge with Corey Pitzer, and also the Global Vice President of Health and Safety at L'Oreal. And I'm really honored today to be actually doing my first podcast, believe it or not. And at the other side, I've got Jean-Christophe Le Coze, who is what I call a safety scientist and sociologist working for an organization in France called INERIS. But Jean-Christophe, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and a little bit about who you work for and what you do?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Really happy to be the first of your podcast. I,
Yeah.
I, yeah, I'm based in France, North Paris, and like you said, I work for an institution called INERIS, and I'm a research director there. And I'm in charge of research programs and research programs in safety. And safety is a sort of a broad church, safety science, with different kind of disciplines, traditions, and the approach that we have and I have in this program and is to be multidisciplinary. So we basically work with different kind of traditions, ergonomics, sociology, engineering, IT as well, and we mix this in different kind of research, very applied, practical research. We work with industries, and we are trying to be both relevant to practice and producing knowledge so that we advance the field. So that's basically what we're doing.
Wow. And INERIS is a government-based organization. It's a private company. What kind of
It's a mix.
organization is it?
Yeah, it's a mix. It's in between. It's called an EPIC in France, which is a partly public, partly private, in the sense that it works also for industry and it works for the government, works for public administrations and for research as well. So we sit in the middle of this different type of, well, let's say, people and organizations.
Sounds interesting. So what does a safety researcher do on a day-to-day basis? I mean, what do you do at work?
Well, we spend a lot of time with companies or with the regulators, understanding their practices. That's one of the key aspects, I guess, of our research, and we're trying to promote practices that allow companies and regulators to contribute to safe performance of organizations in general. So we're halfway between the practices of companies, spending time, like I said, with engineers, with operators, with workers, with managers, regulators, and we also, of course, because we're researchers, we also work with the different disciplines and different research disciplines to provide an understanding of the key aspects in relation to safety. Well, that was a bad one. You cut that one.
So,
uh, yeah, I think the what we do is we produce research. So we write articles. We explain what is the state of the art in practices in science. And we're trying to be one of the many players out there bringing knowledge and improving practices.
sounds absolutely fascinating, but also very intense. So, I mean, what kind of things do you love to do outside of work? I mean, you must go have something for downtime to relax or whatever. What's your passion?
Well, I like many people. I guess I like art, like music. I like to play guitar. I like to enjoy, sport activities as well. I guess I think it's important to be able to do other things than, of course, work. And these are the kind of two things that I enjoy spending time, and music, sport.
Well, talking about music, talking about my love a little bit. Is this
Yeah.
metal music or what kind of classical
Ah,
music? What kind of
well, I
music do you
guess it's
like?
more like, yeah, pop, rock, blues. all sorts of music, jazz also, metal a little bit, but not too much.
Well, maybe next time we'll have you on with your guitar, and we'll
Yeah,
see
why
what
not?
happens
Yeah,
or
why
whatever you
not?
play.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
pleasure.
So,
With pleasure.
anyhow, coming back to work, you appear to really, I would say, almost love producing knowledge through research, and you've written several articles, several books, etc. Why is this sharing of knowledge, producing knowledge, so important to you?
Well, I think that for improving, progressing, we need to share ideas. And one way of sharing ideas, of course, is to write about these ideas. And one aspect also of science is that you publish so that your work is reviewed by your peers. And by doing this, you slowly build foundational work, you build an improvement over time on the different aspects of safety, whether it's from an engineering point of view, whether it's more from human factors or sociology or psychology. You've got a lot of different topics out there on safety, and therefore to write about these topics is to bring your contribution to a global work that is produced across continents on safety, and therefore writing is part of the process of researchers. You have to publish to make your ideas available.
Yeah.
You have to publish so that you can establish a certain perspective on your work and on your view of safety, and therefore it's very important. That's part of the jobs of researchers, and I know a lot of practitioners actually like to write. So I suppose that it's something that is important for being reflective about your own experience, about your own view, perspective on safety. Writing is a very good process, and I guess, well, naturally, researchers, that's part of the job. But like I said, I think a lot of other people and can read quite a lot of practitioners and professionals writing about their practice. So I guess it's being part of the global conversation somehow.
Yeah. I mean, do you know how many actual articles and books you've actually written? Is it like 10, 50, 20? Do you have an idea?
I think yeah, about like 10 books, a bit more, but books are of different kind. You can write your book like personally as the sole author. So books like this, I've got two personal books that I wrote. Then after that, you've got like collective books. So you're the
Okay.
editor of a book where several people contribute. And you've got co-edited books. So you're an editor and you've got another editor with you, which is the same
Wow.
principle being just one editor. And then after you have the option of writing books, not on your own, but with someone else. So I've got this mix of books. I think I've
And
got like 11 books.
is it the same with articles as well? Because I constantly see articles from you
Yeah.
out there on LinkedIn and so on and so forth. So how many articles?
Oh, I don't know. It's like many. It depends. Articles. You've got different kind of articles. You've got articles in scientific journals with the peer review process.
Yeah.
You've got articles for conferences, not always peer reviewed. You've got different kind of articles, but I guess it's probably beyond 150, 200. But I get the main ones that I would consider like the key articles that sort of define what is my position in safety science research, I would say about 40 articles.
Okay, it's good. I want to come back to books, okay? Because I'm
Yeah.
I'm just
Okay.
fascinated by some of the books you've written, and I think there's two that I might be wrong, but I think are probably the most popular ones, if that's
Yeah.
the right word. One of
I
them
don't know.
is well, we'll see. Like it's like is on safety science research on the evolution, the challenges, and the new direction, which
Yeah.
I'm going to say co-wrote in collaboration with other
That's
people.
right. Yes.
And can you say a little bit about that? Because there's a second book I want to talk about as well, which is Postnormal Accidents, right? But I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
that one comes first. So a little bit of how that came and what the main messages were, who you did it with.
Yeah. I mean, the two are connected. And the first is a one that I edited. So that's this category of books I mentioned earlier. When you get several people together to write a chapter, and then you have a book based on the chapters, the collection of chapters from these different authors. So the story of this safety science research book is the story of a workshop that I organized in Paris in 2017. So it's almost like 10 years ago. That's the time it takes for a book to be published, and it's pretty quick from 2017 to 2019. The idea behind the book was that we were a number of researchers of my generation interested in safety and who started to be sort of established as researchers after our PhD. And we realized that we had in common that we started, all of us, with some ideas in the safety field where these ideas were sort of created or were developed in the 1980s, 1990s by earlier researchers. You see, so going back to the question you asked me earlier about what it is to write and what it is to do the job that I'm doing, is you situate yourself in traditions, and traditions are shaped by previous researchers. And therefore, the idea was, oh, okay, as a generation of researchers, what do we have to say about the evolution of the field? We use the legacy of other authors, and therefore, what's new now in 2010 when you think about safety as a product of the 1980s, 1990s for the main research traditions as I described them, basically. And so I invited a number of people. For some of them I knew them. For some of the other, I just only read their papers and
Right.
articles. But I thought they were interesting. And at first I thought about doing a sort of review myself in my office and trying to sort of situate and identify a number of new authors saying new things or bringing fresh perspectives on safety. But I thought, well, you know what? Let's invite them and let's talk about it and see what comes up. And this is what came up, the book. But to that, I added the second part of the book because the book is in two parts. The first part is this new generation of authors asking the previous generation of authors what they think about our ideas. And this is how the book came, as a combination of younger generation and older, if I can call it that way, generation of people. So like Carl White,
Wow.
Ron Westrum, Paul Schulman, Eric Holnagel, Carlin Roberts, and these people commented on our chapters. So basically that's how the title came as well, like evolution, challenges, and new directions.
So basically, the chapters are written by the new generation, as you're calling them, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it was commented on by the older generation,
that's right.
the
Yeah,
people, wow, the
that's
pioneers and stuff like that.
yes.
We can just see it. Safety research. Wow.
Yeah.
And so, who were the new generation people that you spoke to?
Well, the new generation are people that are from different countries. It was mainly Europe, although I invited some people from North America at the time, but they couldn't make it for some of them. New generation, you'll have people from Norway, for instance, people
Okay.
like Stian Antonsen. I don't know if you've heard of him. We've got people as well from the UK, like Tom Reeder.
Hmm.
Other people from Finland, like Timu Reman. So yeah, a bunch of people that I thought were pretty interesting. John Downer as well from the
Wow.
UK, and yeah, it was fun. It was really good, a good experience actually. And I'm
So with
thinking of
the,
doing something again similar in the future.
I think it'd be cool. But with the people, let's stick with the not old generation, I mean the pioneers, right?
Pioneer. I don't like to say old generation.
No, I know pioneers is maybe better. With the
With that,
pioneers, was there any particular moment? I mean, these people must be like your icons, kind of thing. You know,
yeah.
maybe potentially. Was there any particular interview or discussion with any one of them that you still remember to this day that stayed really strong in your mind?
I mean, to be honest, I was so impressed by their chapters. It's exactly what I wanted from that sort of experience in book. The density, the value of what they wrote in these chapters for me is absolutely fantastic. I haven't mentioned Rona Flynn or Nick Pigeon, for instance, in the names I mentioned earlier. But if you read the chapters, they're really fantastic because they come back on 40 years of research
Yeah.
in relation to what they found interesting in the chapters. I was like so happy with this book because to me it was a defining moment as a researcher to have the pioneers, that the people that, like you say, we revere. You know, that's the
Yeah.
people we read. That's the people we respect deeply because they help us shape our own views on safety, and they comment on on your chapters. It's fantastic, and they do it, you know, because they believe in the project. They have to take the time to do it. They have to read, you know, the 10 chapters, or I think like
Wow.
probably more. Yeah, no, about 10 chapters, and then commenting. You have to read that. It's fantastic. Carl Weick chapters on his view on the evolution of the expression vocabularies as a way of grasping the changes. Rona Flynn, Nick Pigeon coming back on his contribution to the field with his experience of working with Barry Turner. That's just is fantastic.
That was
I mean,
fantastic. Well,
I'm very lucky. I'm very proud as well of that book.
I can imagine. I can imagine. One of the things that's also interesting is earlier on this year in SOTI in Berkeley, we actually gave a lifetime achievement award to Diane Vaughan. I
Yes.
mean, and we have, you know, and which was absolutely fantastic. I happened to have a little bit of a chat with her, an amazing lady, yet was so. I got the feeling at parts she was so alone in what she was trying to change and get involved with at that time. I mean, it was quite revolutionary
Oh, absolutely.
at the
Well,
time.
I contacted her and she said she would have loved to be part of that, but she was finishing a book and fantastic book that she wrote, Dead Reckoning, which is yeah, it's like something I think a major contribution to safety. And she couldn't join because she was too busy. And I must say as well, I was a bit, you know, disappointed that some couldn't join because they were too busy, like Andrew Hopkins or Charles Perrow, who passed away in 2019. So it was a bit of a shame not to have them. But being alone is part of uh, the research experience because what you're doing in research, at least a different kind of research, of course. It's a very applied research, which is really good and very much needed. Uh, then you contribute directly. But if you explore things, if you think that there are areas that need to be sort of investigated because no one did it before, because you come up with new ideas, new ways of framing the problem, you're likely to be a bit like you described it, alone, because you're exploring, you're at the vanguard of things. And therefore,
Yeah.
it's only later that people might recognize your contribution. I don't think that's completely the case for Diane Vaughan because she had very strong exposition and the value of her work on Challenger will probably um,
Yes.
highly visible. So, but it can be yeah, a lonely
Well,
sometimes
and
experience.
you mentioned Cal Weck, right?
Yeah,
And I mean, as you know, in for SOTI 2026, he will receive a lifetime achievement award,
yeah,
which is accepted. Just say a little bit about him. I mean, because I know, you know, he's one of your heroes, kind of thing.
yeah.
So, I mean, say a bit about him. What was it like talking with him or getting his input?
I haven't had the chance to talk to him much. We discussed through emails, but
Okay.
he's always been very kind to the kind of thing that I was trying to develop, and it was a privilege really to be supported by someone like him. I think the contribution of Carl Wack is very important because he is bringing to safety a different kind of perspective that many people find perhaps sometimes unusual, and which is normal because that's what it is. It's a bit
Yeah.
unusual. It's a sort of constructivist type of approach, if I may translate it that way. Some people might disagree by the way I perhaps frame this, but it is a sort of process view, as we call it. So very dynamic, understanding the interactions and how they create enact worlds and how they enact the context within which safety is performed. It's actually
Okay.
quite perhaps ambitious in few words to describe his contribution, but if you read some of his key articles that describe cases of accidents, for instance, but he's interested as much as the performance side, not only uh, the um, the case of failure of accidents. When in these cases, it's perhaps the best way to understand his contribution. Of course, he's very well known for the notion of collective mindfulness. And I think like a lot of people have been very much influenced by that. And it contains a lot of key ideas to figure out the dynamic aspects of what it is to be performing safely or reliably. And that's why he's so important. And he's yeah, an author that is really strongly connected to with the pragmatist approach in the US. But to tell you something, you know, I've been working a lot on the contribution of such authors, but I haven't yet done that sort of historical and conceptual contribution from Carl Weick, study from Carl Weick, and I intend perhaps if I'm find the time to do it in the future, so I can come back
If
for
it,
a podcast especially dedicated to Carl Weick if you want.
oh, that sounds absolutely amazing. Let's move forward to what I would call the sequel, right?
Oh yeah, okay,
Which
yeah.
post-normal accidents, revising Perrow's classic. Okay, so first off, before we get into the book, there's probably a lot of people out there haven't got a clue who Perrow is, right? The first time
Yeah.
I heard of Perrow was because of you. So do you want to, who is this guy?
It's it's you know that's I like that because I think like and I think that's the intention of your conference to put together researchers, practitioners, and to see how there is value to connect these worlds. And I think that Perrow has been pretty influential, but I think a distinction that is interesting to mention here is occupational safety and process safety or high risk safety critical industry. Charles Perrow is typically someone who wrote in the context of safety critical systems. He created, so he was an American sociologist. He was a very influential sociologist of organization with a very broad perspective on what it meant to study organization, not outside society, but within society. He describes society as a society of organizations. Was very interested in the rise of organizations as key social realities um, as they became bigger and bigger. Corporate organizations became bigger in the 20th century, and it's a social phenomenon in itself. So he was very
Right.
interested in that, and he applied his sociological view of organizations to the topic of high risk systems and safety critical systems. And he actually sort of created this category. Before Perrow, there was no book dedicated to the study of high risk systems as he described them, such as nuclear industry, aviation, mining, the chemical industry, all these sort of big industry which, when you lose control of these industries, can create catastrophic events, and have, like, with the notion of the economist, strong negative externalities. So Perrow created that category, and he created a framework. And in this framework, he situated and compared this industry, saying that some of them were more likely to surprise us and be out of control, considering their features, coupling and complexity. So that's what Perrow did in the 19th. So the book came out in 1984. And
Oh, wow.
1984 was, the 1980s were, like I mentioned earlier, was a period of time when safety became very prominent in research, when we had more and more ideas produced by very different kind of researchers in different disciplines, sociology, engineering, etc. And Perrow was one of these defining moments, a bit like James Reason book, Human Error. This is one of the book of the 1980s that defined and marked the era of the development of safety science. Sometimes we talk about the golden age of safety.
The golden age of safety. I love it. So
Safety science, yeah.
is that to say that Perrow either wrote a book or he came up with the concept of normal accidents? Is that why
That's
your
right.
book's called Post-Normal Accidents?
That's right. Yeah, it's so Normal Accidents was written in 1980s, and in this book he argued for the existence of systems that, considering the way they are shaped, if I might use that expression, they're more likely than others to create surprises, what he calls normal accidents. He was inspired by 3 Mile Island at the time, and he said, like, certain systems, coupling and complexity, when they combine tight coupling and complexity together, will create opportunities for events that we can't prevent, that we can't anticipate. And that was his main thesis. But it turns out that when you read the book carefully, and this is what I did, there was another thesis in the book, which was as interesting in my view, which is saying the completely opposite to what Perrow said with the first idea in his book on normal accident. He was saying basically that most accidents happen because we did not put enough attention to safety, and therefore the accident is the product of not making enough effort, if you like. And
Right.
he compares organizations. He says, like, and systems. He says, in aviation, for instance, when you have a lot of resources, when safety is taken really seriously in all the decision-making processes, from design to maintenance to operations, then you obtain a safer system than when you are in an industry where safety is not as taken seriously. And he compares, for instance, the maritime industry, saying that it is not as safe because it's not structured, socially structured in a way that allows the systems to perform safely. It includes regulation, it includes unions, it includes all sorts of things that socially shape the conditions of the performance of the system. This is a very, very important idea. And that was the second idea in the book. So post-normal accident is, first of all, reminding people, perhaps who might have read the book, but not very carefully, like I did a few years back, that there were two main ideas. So that's the first thing in post-normal. But then the second, there are 5 like major sort of steps from normal accidents to post-normal accidents in my book. But the second big idea is that the 1980s are not the 2020s. Makes sense, really.
Yeah.
If you think
Yeah.
about the 1980s, it's very different than
Oh,
nowadays, right?
totally different culture. Everything's changed, huh?
Everything's changed. So if we look back, and that was, the aim of the first book. That's why they were the two were connected. The one we
Okay.
discussed earlier,
Yeah.
But the one earlier, safety science research, was a collective contribution to that question. What has changed? What are the new ideas? What are the new challenges? What has changed in the world so that we need to perhaps revise or update the
Okay.
main ideas of the 1980s for our contemporary situation.
Yep.
And that's what I do in postnormal accident. I explain, in my view, considering my research and the time I spend with companies, understanding their problems and understanding the solutions they find to their problems, understanding what it is that they have to cope with. Well, what has changed in between? And I thought it was highly relevant to try to take this book from the 1980s and to ask ourselves, what is the difference with 40 years ago, and what does it mean for our understanding of the conditions of safe and unsafe performance? And I come up with a number of ideas about globalization, the ecological problems that we have. Globalization is part, of course, of the increased interconnectedness across continents through increase of flows, including data. With internet, think about 1980s.
Yep.
Okay, internet was just starting, and now we're like with social media, we're right now recording a podcast. So the world has completely changed. And how do
Completely.
we bring this into the picture, and how do we make the sort of theories that we have evolve, taking this into consideration?
Yeah, if you just think about the times we used to plug into the phone line in order to get access to the internet, and
Yeah.
side issue, totally got nothing to do with this, but did you know that I bought my first PC from Toys R Us?
Oh.
They used to sell computers right ages ago,
So
but that's
was this for video games or?
no, this was just a normal PC back in
Oh, yeah.
1998. I bought
Oh,
it anyhow.
1998. Yeah,
But that's
okay,
a
yeah.
long time ago. That's a long time ago.
Do
Anyhow,
you remember what
so
computer that was?
yeah, I do, but I'm not going to say.
Okay.
Anyhow, so out of this post-normal accident book, you made a number of conclusions. Has that focused you a little bit on future work, what you're interested in developing? Or, so what I'm asking really is, what's after post-normal accidents?
Yeah. But I think it's interesting to perhaps for people listening, that in safety science, to put it simply, you have like some safety science research, the practical side and the empirical side, both work together. Practical is, what do I do concretely to make operations safer? For instance, if you're interested, of course, in safety, that would be the kind of question you have. Of course, it's a different question if you were like yourself, a vice president in a multinational, or if you were a safety professional in a small company in one site. Okay, so the practical issue is very important. And you've got the empirical issue, which is the description of how things actually happen. And description can include the way tools are used, for instance. So post-normal accident is more on the descriptive side, is
Okay.
trying to understand how to describe the way organizations operate safely in the context of these changes. So let's take just an example. If you increase globalization, if you increase global, what we call value chains, if you work with more companies across the world and that your operations depends on people working in different places, it changes the way you operate. It changes the conditions within which you will be able to work safely, because you'll have to interact with people, for instance, through computers like we're doing now, through emails, and therefore then the conditions within which you produce and you work are different, and these conditions are important to understand, because this is the conditions that explain whether you successfully perform safely or if you fail to do so. And therefore, all these changes, they need to be understood. Take another example, you were mentioning computers. Before the 1980s, 1990s, in chemical plants, for instance, control room were not the way they are now. Now control rooms, they're based on many computers programmed by engineers, and you've got few operators. In the past, all these operators would do the work themselves, turn the valve, be very close to the tanks. Now this is over for in many circumstances, many cases, this is over. So it means like we operate processes, like chemical processes from control rooms, and control rooms, they also evolve. So that is
Yeah.
basically this idea of understanding changes and what does it mean for practices and for work of people, different
Yeah,
kinds of people.
I remember when I was in the chemical industry, sort of, we had a control room, but there was no sort of computers. Everything was done like on charts. That
Yes,
you had
yeah,
you used to, like a pen used to go around the chart to tell you where the
yeah,
conditions were and all the
yeah,
rest of it. But again, it's like you were saying. I mean, we've been talking before about the increase in like mental workload, the number of things that need to be observed is quite tremendous, huh?
absolutely.
It's a
I
big,
mean,
big, big, big change.
big changes. Like cognition is important in this respect. Understand the conditions within which people work is to pay attention, perhaps more to cognition. And before, it doesn't mean that, of course, they did not use their brain before. It's not what we
No.
mean here. It's just that perhaps they worked like with more people. For instance, in the situations that I observed, you had control room in the past with 6, 10 people, and with the change of technology, you need only one person. Only one person. That person is alone and has to supervise the processes on several screens, for instance. So the way that person works is different than in the past. It's a different kind of job. So you need to pay attention to that. And when you say the cognitive workload can come with this change of work. We see a lot of that these days, and of course, it also changes the way people interact. They used to be working in teams and dialogue, discuss, exchange with people all day long, and that's over. They're on their own or only with another colleague. So the team dynamics, they evolve too. So all these things are very important. In post-normal accidents is very much about understanding safety as an historical product. It's very
Right.
interesting to understand that. And we're talking just now about the operators, but think about, and of course, the engineers, because when you've got more computers, you've got engineers. And when you've got engineers with IT skills, you need also sometimes servers to make it work. So you change the configuration of companies because they outsource some of their IT infrastructures to new organizations that did not exist before. So you changed a lot of that, but it's not only engineers, operators, managers, it's also at the top of organization. We know about the financialization of work and of businesses. So what are the implications of that? Does it make a lot of difference when you have a more financialized governance at the top of organizations? What does it mean in terms of how work is organized? The type of formation that is needed at the top of corporate organizations. So change affects many different aspects of organizations.
Yeah.
It's interesting to understand that. If you take the Boeing case, for instance, you have a mix of strategy in the context of financialized orientation and the design of a cockpit. So you see, things are sort of connected and everything changes.
It sounds. It's also actually not easy when you just describe the things as you just described them to actually connect all the dots
Yeah, yeah,
where there are
yes,
connections. It doesn't seem to be a very, from a
yeah.
very simplistic point of view, it just seems very complicated, right? At times
It
to
is,
connect all those dots.
it is and it is not. It's just an empirical question. That's what post-normal accident was about. And the previous book as well. How do we connect the levels so we understand that safety is the product and the outcome of the connections between these different levels? It's not like incredibly complex. I mean, we understand that. Yet, of course, the problem is how do we build the knowledge about these connections? How do we create the programs to establish these connections and make them more explicit?
Yeah, and I would also say, just to throw in there, that if we can connect the dots better or connect more dots, then we can make better decisions. We make better informed decisions. So
Absolutely.
it's all about decision making as well, because we have more data, you could
Absolutely.
say, more connections. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what the book is about. There's this one there.
wow. So
Well, it's just we can't see it.
we can't see that one.
We're
You
sort
can, that's okay. Unless you want to show them both, just turn off your background for a second so we can see your bookcase behind you, and then you can show them both.
Let me try that. Here we go.
There you
That's
are.
the
There we
one.
go. Post-normal accident.
Yeah.
And that was, when did you
With
write that
a
one?
with a nice big.
This is a
Sorry?
very nice picture. When was that one published? 2019?
That one was published in 2020.
Okay.
So
And the
5 years ago. And the funny
5
thing about
years.
this is that in the last chapter, I've got um, a development on the idea that we need to consider businesses and organizations in general in the context of what we call systemic threats. And one of them is pandemics. So when the book was
Wow.
published, we were right in the middle of COVID-19, and I thought, oh, that's quite interesting as an illustration. And I actually wrote an article after that to explain how this sort of view of the world as a interconnected place is
Yeah.
important considering such an event like COVID-19.
You mentioned articles now, and earlier you mentioned that you've done over 100, 150, 40 of
Yeah,
them are, I'm going to say,
the key ones.
the key ones, right? So
Yeah.
which one of those 40 is your favorite and why?
I think like each article is a contribution on your own journey, intellectual, practical, whatever you want to call it, like um, scientific journey. And I like them all because they remind me of where I was when I was trying to figure out a number of questions that I had about about safety and how to produce safely, basically, which is the heart of my research. And yeah, which one would I like the one on Perrow, which is always in articles you're always trying to find the right title for your
Yeah.
article. So I like this
I,
title, on Bad Perrow, was Perrow right for the wrong reason? That
yeah,
I like.
it's a pretty cool title. It's sort of
It
like
was good.
it's
It was
inviting you to read it, isn't it?
yeah, hopefully.
Almost.
And
Hopefully.
yeah, hopefully. And another one on James Reason. If you like James Reason, lots of people like James Reason for very good reason. And I had,
I do. I'm one.
another good title, which was Good and Bad Reason about the critics of James Reason. But yeah, that one is interesting also, that article that I wrote with at the time was a PhD student, and then I was part of his jury, and he was studying, part of his thesis was the study of James Reason, and the name of that person is Justin Larousse. And during the jury, we discussed about James Reason, and then after contacted me and said, should we write something together about James Reason, because you were interested and you started digging into the history of safety, and then we wrote that article together. So I think this is an article
Nice.
that is interesting because it situates the contribution of an important author, James Reason. Another one that I like also that has been pretty popular considering the controversies and discussions and debates about these ideas on the new view. So I wrote a paper on
Right.
explaining the origins, the debates, the successes, but also the sort of controversies around the new view. So I know that it's a popular article
And
because
is that the one that's called "How New is the New View" or something like that?
Well, that how new is the new view of safety is something that derives from all my previous research,
Okay.
including that article, which was really key to that. The idea of how new the new view is came from talking to people, because there was a lot of discussion in the field on this, and people were saying, well, there's nothing new about the new view, and you know, we've known this for years, and so I thought it was an interesting sort of question to answer, and I tried to answer that. I came up with 5 theses on the new view, and I will explain this to in another session in the future. I think it's in December. I talked about this in several workshops.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to
Let's.
answer this question, to show that, yeah, it can be new, it can be sort of newish or not new enough even for some people. So it's relative. Doesn't mean that it, you know, has no some sort of new aspects, but it's a relative sort of notion too.
Yeah. So,
Might be a bit
let's not do.
controversial if I'm saying this.
Oh, yeah, it's fine. But let's not go into too much detail, because then people can we can give them a little bit of a hunger
Yes.
to come
Yeah.
onto the session. But it's
Yeah.
true what you said, because I look at people around me, and I know what I know because of my years of experience and being
Yes.
around.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've realized is that the people coming behind me, the future vice presidents or the future leaders in EHS,
Yeah.
for some, it's actually brand new, right? This
Yeah.
kind of, even the old
Yeah.
stuff is brand new,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's quite confusing. But
It can
no,
be confusing. But you know,
let's leave
yeah.
that for another podcast now.
Okay.
Let's
Okay. Okay.
leave let's
But
leave it for teasings.
just to explain, like in a few words, the confusion comes from the diversity of industries and of traditions in safety, from cognitive psychology to behaviorism to psychology, etc. So it creates a sort of confusion that it's interesting to sort of clarify.
But isn't that a little bit because they approach the subject of being human, for want of an expression in my own terms, from different perspectives? It's not, I, are they necessarily right or wrong? Because I mean, they've just
Yeah.
looked at people from a different point of view, whether it's internal or whether
Yeah.
it's maybe from an external. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think like it depends also if it's in relation to sectors and industries and type of risks, is it adapted to the resources, the type of hazards that the company or the industry you know, face, and therefore this is a question that you need to contextualize each time. But there's of course
Wow.
there's something depends again. It's a bit depends where you situated. It can be new or less new depending on what is your position in relation, for example, to human factors and cognitive engineering. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
let's
we
elaborate on this another time.
yeah, I think it could be a whole podcast, a series of podcasts
It could be. It could
just
be.
in itself, couldn't it? So I want to bring you back to SOTI 2025,
Yeah.
right? Berkeley, California. You were there, yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
And for you, when you were there, um, did you get any value for being present? I mean, let's not talk about you speaking. We'll talk about that next. But did you get any value from actually being there for the 2 days?
It
What
was
did it
yeah.
add for you?
It was very good. I mean, this is the kind of place that combines researchers and practitioners coming together and trying to understand each other more. And I think there's a great need for this kind of place, and that's what I liked about it. Is like they were really these two kind of people,
Mhm.
and trying to do something together. So there is a great value of doing this, and it's not common. It doesn't
Okay.
happen um, often, I think. And so that you put the idea of a recognition for researchers' contribution to safety, that was fantastic. I think
You,
it showed the value of producing knowledge. We've been talking about this for like almost an hour, I think now, or 30, 45 minutes.
45 minutes.
It's good to recognize that, in fact, these writings, these ideas, they play a certain role in helping people to think, change perhaps their views on practices, and contribute in somehow to a change of practices. Like we said earlier, it's not immediate. The work of writing and producing ideas does not always translate immediately into practical outcomes. It's not necessarily a problem. You've got, of course, more practically oriented research, but to have this broad perspective on safety by bringing practitioners and researchers with influential writings, it was really good. And of course, you had also this ceremony and this sort of competition for practitioners. And I like the two together. There were, of course, different moments during
Yep.
the conference, but it's good to have at the same level of excitement, in a sense, if I can formulate it that way, the practitioners, the professionals, and the science and the researchers
Absolutely.
together.
Uh,
That's
uh,
the fun.
And I think one of the things that Corey and I wanted to do was, and I don't know whether it's really breaking silos or just starting the conversations, but also
Yeah,
between process safety, occupational health and safety,
yeah,
research, and the
yeah,
big associations as well. Because I think, I think I said at the conference that to, together we're going to be stronger. We're going to find solutions to problems, and maybe a problem that I have, for example, at work, and somebody else at academia or in an association, or could come from process safety that actually helps me solve my problem. So I think
yes,
that's one
yes.
thing.
I think
So
the approach is very relational, if I can
yeah,
formulate it that way. You put together people who are part of this ecosystem, of safety, and you put them together, and, create
so
the conversation.
putting you on the spot, and you
Yeah,
can't say your session, right?
yeah.
What were your favorite sessions? Did you that you attended? Were you just, you were listening, you're a fly on the wall kind of thing? What were your favorite
Mm.
sessions?
I really like the introduction with I think it was Kimberly, the CEO.
Kim
Uh,
Green.
oh yes, that's right.
Oh, she
So
was amazing, huh?
that was moving, I think, because it felt like a sort of very strong, genuine uh, explanation of what it means when you're a CEO to commit to safety. And yeah, I think it was, like, for a lot of people, quite a moving moment. I really enjoyed that. It felt really like genuine, and
Yeah,
we could see that the of course there's the pressure. I mean, you're a CEO, you supervise like hundreds, sometimes thousands of, or you're in charge of thousands of people. What does it mean really to care for safety and to design the processes to make this happen, and
yeah.
making sure that everything is done to provide safe environment for your employees. And I thought that was really moving. Another one that I liked, it's not to say it because you're doing the podcast, but it was with Tom Cross.
Yeah,
I liked it. I like the
I like
format.
that.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good. I think it's, like, I value hearing about the perspective of people with 40 years, sometimes 50 years of experience, so you can get a sort of a deep dive into a trajectory, which is a mix in the case of Tom Cross of intellectual reflection, practical experience, and because of course he's been writing quite a lot over the years, and therefore you got all this material. So it's really good to do that, and I hope there'll be another sort of session like this in the next one.
He's actually Tom and I will be doing a second edition for one on.
Ah, okay, yeah,
We're gonna actually talk about HOP and BBS and things like that, and go into
okay,
a little bit more
yeah,
detail of the way
yeah,
he sees
yeah,
it, which should be which will be quite
yeah.
good.
So
And
sort of a really different,
yes,
not the trajectory. I think that's good too, to hear about what it is that people been doing over 50 years, and and some of them, of course, are very influential. But I guess a lot of different people would be also interesting to listen to,
I
with
think
the same sort of approach.
we're also going to do a fireside chat with Amy Edmondson, psychological
Okay.
safety.
Yes. Yes.
So she'll be doing that. And going back, just to go back and connect the dots, you were talking about Cal Weik or Weck,
Yeah.
whichever
Yeah.
way you were. So he's actually getting a lifetime award as well. So which will be
That's
good.
brilliant.
This will be absolutely amazing.
Yes.
So in SOTI 2026, one of the things you're going to be doing is sort of like call it a double act on a workshop with
Okay.
James Pomeroy. Do you have any ideas what you, I mean, I think this is a fantastic pairing, but
Yeah.
you have any idea what you and James are going to be doing in your workshop?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so. James Pomeroy is someone with work experience in health and safety for many
He,
many years, and
he works for Arup. He's an EHS
yeah,
director at Arup.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he has embarked into a PhD
Yeah.
program, and he's been studying and been looking into a semiotic kind of approach to
Okay.
safety, and so he came up with a number of very interesting and valuable insights, based also, of course, on his experience, but of course on the methodology that he followed for his PhD. One of them is like, and at as the core of his work. I don't want to talk too much about his work and put the wrong words on his work, but the importance of metaphors, the importance also of visualizing, and this is where we come together. I
Yeah.
published a book in 2023, I think, but that was based on a workshop that I organized in 2019 with a think tank that we call Network, great think tank, funded by FONCI in France, and it was a workshop on the topic of visualizing safety, because we
Okay.
thought, and I thought, that there was not enough work and not enough research on the importance of visuals, pictures, drawings,
Yep.
and yet we know that they are everywhere. I mean, in safety, there are so many interesting diagrams, drawings, pictures. Think about the Bradley curve, for instance. It's
Oh, yeah.
simple diagram, straight lines, a curve, and with this, you sort of engage in an interesting conversation because of what this visual represents. So the issue of visuals, of drawings, of metaphors are a really interesting ones to dig and to look
I,
into, and therefore the session is about this.
I think
The
it's going to be
importance of,
amazing.
yeah, metaphors. And
Well,
think about James Reason too. Uh,
yeah.
the Swiss
You
cheese.
said that. You said that. You said that because you know that I like James Reason,
Well, I think you're
huh?
not the only one, and it's not
So
a risky move when we say that
uh,
James Reason is important.
so I think I think it's going to be really good to see you again
Yeah,
at SOTI.
thanks for
I
having
think
me.
also you'll be doing a keynote, but we'll keep that apart. We'll just let people know that you're also going to be there doing a keynote as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
as well as the workshop. So SOTI 2026 is actually in May, if you remember. It's on the
Yeah.
5th and 6th of May, and we've sort of come together with National Safety Council. So believe it or not, if you wanted to, you could stay for the whole week and go to the National Safety Council 2 days as well,
Why
2 days as
not?
well. But which is actually maybe not so good for you, because in the US, as safety professionals, they have to get something called CEUs to keep the certified safety professional status, and you need to get at least
Ah,
5 a year. Well, you almost get 5 in one shot on this one, right? You get your year's supply of CEUs between Safety on the Edge and the National Safety Council one afterwards. So this has been really, really good, but I've got one more question for you, right? Right. So if you could turn back time, which actually I love that because that comes from a Cher song, right? If I could turn back time, if you
yeah.
know Cher, right? Where would you go and who would you want to meet?
go back in time, like
Anywhere you want, you can go back to meet somebody, their younger version. You can meet yourself as a younger version, or you can meet a hero that's no longer with us. Where would you go?
wow,
And who would you go see?
any epochs, like
Anywhere you want. You could even go back to the Stone Age.
Stone Age. Oh,
Anywhere in
perhaps
the world.
yeah, like for a lot of people, so a name that comes up like this is Leonardo da Vinci.
Wow, yeah.
That'd be great to meet that person and to see the type of character that he was.
I think that's a great one. I think that's a great one. Listen, Jean-Christophe, it's been absolutely fantastic. Time has absolutely flown by. We're going to
Yeah.
have to do a version 2 and a version 3 of this podcast, but honestly, it's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll talk soon. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Malcolm. Bye.